You are listening to The Only Constant, a podcast where we go beyond the usual discussions in technology and business and aim to explore more than explain. Join me for engaging discussions with a diverse range of global thought leaders as we seek to uncover new perspectives and insights in a free-flowing conversation. My guest today is Christian Bech Nørhave, and I am your host, Lasse Rindom. Hi Christian, and welcome to The Only Constant. I've been looking forward to this episode with you today, and I'm super happy to have you here in the office with me on spot.
Thank you very much, Lasse. It's I've really been looking forward to this talk. So yeah, I'm very happy to be here.
Also see, how far we're going to take it today and everything. I know you touch upon so many people and enterprises all the time in your role for the Danish Chamber of Commerce, right?
Yep.
Which is a, what should we call it? An influencer organization, a lobby organization,
a workforce organization, a company organization. I don't know the English term for it, but we manage 19,000 companies and their political agendas and help them with law and everything else in Denmark. So so
it's a mixture of all that. So that's why you really you get far and wide in your discussions.
Yep.
So I'm really happy to be able to pick your brain today on some of the things you're actually touching upon. So when I ever ask you something, I expect you to represent 19,000 companies in your answer.
A lot of people expect me to do that, but I'll try. I'll do my best.
Not to put any pressure on you. I hope you're at ease now. I hope you feel comfortable.
So. Yeah, I mean, this is my everyday. so it's perfect.
Great, Christian. So are enterprises even adequately prepared right now for the coming of generative AI? It's been out since 2022. Are they prepared for the coming of it today? Because I don't see it still implemented out there. So are we prepared for it?
No, not at all. But you say it's out since 2022. Yeah, it had its iPhone moment there, and everybody got to know what generative AI had possibilities to. But we are not ready for it yet. We're not thinking it as a transformative technology. We are trying. Everybody is trying to find this magic button where we can just plug and play it, and it will somehow move the bottom line 20%. It's not happening. We are looking at it at a completely wrong way. Every company in most companies in Denmark are not investing the right amount of money and time into this technology to get the benefits of transformation from it. So on that note, no, not at all. But companies are coming around now, and they are finding that they have great data sets and can build products upon that and can actually make transformation on this. So but it's the few right now.
Did companies actually think that this was a magic button initially?
Yeah. But look at any other technology jump for the last 100 years. Lots of companies has done the same thing when we have these like technological jumps. Everybody jumps into it and say, "Oh, we need to go to the cloud. We need to go on www. We need to think something about our business into crypto or blockchain." But you are actually seeing that this is not something new. This is a technology that builds upon a technology that we have known since the 50s. So there is a lot of value being added in AI in general. And right now we see that companies are actually finding these values and can do transformative things and can create value from it.
Yeah, what things are you seeing there?
I'm very happy that we are moving to the next stage where people are building products upon data. You are seeing something like Kano and Jefole and AELEX and stuff, like taking data sets and building products that people can use to handle law in Denmark. So and that's the small scale things, but people are automating and optimizing and transforming their businesses with AI and generative AI.
Don't you think it's a big bet to say chat with your data, right? That everyone's building that, and that's also kind of all that. It's about chatting with data, right?
Yeah.
Do you see people? Do they want to work to do that? Do we want to chat with our data?
Yeah, we do. We definitely do, because we have a lot of data right now where the barrier of creating value from it is actually accessing all of it at the same time and extracting knowledge from it. I won't point out which governmental department, but they create a lot of law about different stuff, and their main problem is actually having an overview of everything, to actually be able to search and tell the citizens of Denmark what to do with this. And they are really looking into transforming their whole organization with being able to chat or to search in a more intelligent way.
So it's a smarter way to search.
Yeah, because their search systems right now is not working. It's hit based, so whenever there's a new law, they are going to page 45 to get that information out.
But I think you know why I asked the question also, because we see some of these chatbots being installed at some places where it's like no one's using it, and then or they're just using the raw chat GPT or something instead, because it didn't make sense to use the catered.
Yeah. But there's a huge difference in that question. There's the question that say, should you do it? Probably not. But is there cases where you want to chat with your data, or you want to have all your data available to you at any given moment? Yes, there's lots of cases and ways where that could make a huge amount of value.
Is it faultless? No, but it's better than what we had before.
Yeah, exactly. And that might not be transformative, but for some organizations, it actually is. So the other question is that should everybody be installing a chatbot or internally or externally? No.
And we are installing it on these 2 or 3 small documents. Okay, great. Yeah. So I'm not going to chat with that. I'm just gonna,
But do you have a 90,000 system of documents that you could actually build a proper rack system for and access all of this data with chat? That might be a huge benefit for you.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. Everybody doesn't need a chatbot, but it could add great value for some companies.
But it actually brings me to one of the things I've been thinking a lot about lately is that it's change management in this. It's not just about resistance, that people are not using it. That's always the focus. People are just resisting it. But I think we might need to change focus to see how can people actually chip into this. How can we make it's the same way we talk about getting our data and processes and stuff like ready. Is to say, how can we make our data chip into the AI transformation? How can we make it ready to be used for this? How do we do that with our people, do you think?
But it comes down to actually the challenges with AI right now. Like the main challenge I see every day is that we don't know shit about what we're talking about. So we have to get over that burden first. Everybody doesn't need to know what fuzzy logic and NLP and machine learning, deep learning. They don't need to know the difference, but they need to be specific when they communicate about it.
Yeah.
We need to get everybody on board that you can't go into a meeting saying we need one AI to solve this, because that's what's happening. That's what has been happening.
I love you saying that, because I think that actually reflects some of the discussions you're having in your role.
I won't mention names right now, but I had 2 of these meetings yesterday about like conferences and webinars and like, but couldn't we focus more about like what tools are great right now?
Yeah,
and like. No, they won't be great in a week, or they be obsolete.
No.
So
Yeah, so
why will you focus on that?
But that's the last hope of the magic button, isn't it? The magic, tool is like, oh, let's maybe we're approaching it the wrong way. Maybe we just need this app to do it. Maybe someone built this particular use case that would change everything. When I'm presenting about this, is always I give them some use cases, which is more about mindset, basically, how to think about it. I think that's what you're saying as well, right? But people are like, but this is not gonna change how I work. No. I know I'm presenting something. I don't work with selling herring or whatever you're doing in your business enterprise. So I've made a generic use case.
Yeah.
And you have to. I hope through my most people in the room understand what I've done.
I know.
But I hope through my presentation that you understand how to think this in a better. But some people are just so narrow. Like no, this is not this doesn't change around everything I do, right? But then they're also happy at the same time. Oh. Thank God it didn't make me obsolete or change everything around.
But that's the two what do you call it? The two sides of it. Like people are either like dead scared about losing their job tomorrow on it, or they're so optimistic that they could optimize their whole workflow and work from the Bahamas 3 weeks, 3 days, 3 hours a week. That's the polls right now. Like that's the opposite. We are looking at it the whole wrong way. Through innovation, through time, we have always taken in tools, taken in innovation, and moved ourselves from being the one that did it physically to the one that managed something doing the thing. Like robots and machines in agriculture and everything has moved us from like doing the heavy lifting to overseeing that it's been doing right. This isn't different.
No, and we also, I always say, people are always afraid of losing their jobs, and some are, right? But if you just look at it, how many things do you do that the Neolithic man did?
Yeah,
nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're still sort of occupied throughout your day, right, Christian? Doing podcasts and stuff. But
exactly. And that's the thing. I thought about like taking this point as the only constant, that we will always figure out something to do with our time. Like if you really studied like the future researchers of the past, like in the 1910s, 20s, 30s, what they all had in common was that when we reached the 2000s, nobody would work more than 4 hours a week. It didn't make sense.
No, but that's because people look so like right now on things. They can't see that there's an evolution of things. There's a context to it. I think sometimes it becomes so. I'm like Fabregat. How can you just look at now?
Yeah.
Everything I do now will be automated. Okay, great. Cool. But what about the things you'll do in 5 years?
Yep.
That will be the same, probably. No, it won't.
Exactly.
And I think people are, we've seen this so many times, but still people do that. And I find it sort of, I don't know. I'm a historian, right? So for me, it's natural to think that way long term, right? But it seems a little bit, time autistic almost, right? Like you're boxing in time as now. Everything I see now is how the world, and it's also the naturalistic fallacy of saying that the way things are is the way things are supposed to be, and that's the era so many people are doing right now. That you're sort of concluding from how things are to saying that's also how they will be in the future, or how they should be in the future, but they won't be.
Or if I remove this box, like, I used 5 hours a week answering emails, and now I will reduce it to 1 hour.
Yeah.
I will have 4 hours free time.
Woohoo!
No, you won't.
You have to manage it as well. And then you'll have another bot to manage, and you'll get something.
Yeah. And your colleagues will create 5 times more emails for you to read and answer to. It levels out. You're selling herring, or the example before, like you might optimize parts of your daily life that you don't want to do, but it won't create any transformation on the herring selling part of it.
I think my favorite analogy that makes this, always come home to people who work in business and enterprise is that when we got Excel and ERPs, we went from spending so much time doing just a yearly financial report, right?
Yeah.
Then we got these things and we're like, great, now it's so easy. But then we invented, what about half-year reports?
Yeah.
What a quarterly, a monthly. Can I get a monthly number? Yes, you can.
Yeah.
And now I want it live in my dashboards,
I
right?
will have a dashboard.
Yes, I will have and let's update it. Let's change it, and let's change the dates. So the complexity just increases.
Yeah.
And we want more and more, and it becomes a competitive edge to have more than your competitor. That's the point, right?
Yeah.
Always an edge. Always a frontier.
It was in 1983.
Maybe that's a constant, right? There's always a frontier.
But that was one of the constant I thought about today, like the moving of the goalpost, the moving of the.
I don't hope I took it there.
No. I have another one. I have 5 or something like that. But I really thought long and hard about that one today. But there was an article out in 1983. I don't know if it was the New York Times or one of the big papers out there that really.
Christian is not that old, by the way.
No, I'm not that old, but 3 years before I was born.
Good, yeah.
There was an article out about like now we are getting spreadsheets. There will be no accountant job tomorrow, and it was like, do not educate yourself to be an accountant. It is lost. It is gone. It is bye. 10 years after, there were a factor of 20. The amount of accountants in the U.S. than in 1983. We just created a lot of more things that we could. That they could do.
They're not a waste.
No. We some of it they might be wasteful, but that's not specific to accountant. That's the whole pseudo work thing, and then we that's a whole nother talk. But yeah, it's not a waste. It's we find things to do and create value from, and this whole AI hype thing and the whole like the
whole pseudo work thing. Just to touch upon that, I think that that's something completely missing there, because what we're doing in what is called pseudo, of course there's some people registering things and no one ever reads again, but I don't think the idea of the pseudo work was to attack more than just that. That was all the things that, all the things we're doing, the Neolithic man is not doing, is basically pseudo work, right, to some extent. And I really don't agree with that, because civilization is also about these interdependence lines and how we get more interdependent. We build more complexities in the way we operate. And we are now living in a global society. There's never been more need for strict control of humans, because we are in a very, very big marketplace, a very, very big society. Yeah. And so I think that's also why we increase the complexity in all the things we're doing there.
But we are increasing the complexity, and it will create more work for control and more for reporting and everything else. I just have to say that I have experienced delivering something that and using many, many hours to do stuff that I should have said no to. And that's the part of it I would like to call pseudo work. And we should be aware of that. But I completely agree that
empowering employees, right, to make them dare say no to things that doesn't make sense. That's important.
But it's not that I will call everything that we don't do for a specific task. It's pseudo, but yeah, it is around, and we should of course also be aware of that.
Definitely. So is it really enough to just? I think you already said that. Is it enough to just get a chatbot installed right now to be modern? Is that what it takes? If you have this law chatbot, then you're modern, or what is it, right? Thor in the previous episode mentioned the innovation theater as something we should avoid. Are people doing innovation theaters, saying here is where we innovate, and then the rest of the enterprise, let's just try to forget about that.
Let's
not talk about that.
That's working right now. So don't.
Or is it? Or is it too expensive to make it work better?
But right now it's creating revenue. Everything is going according to the 2% a year margin growth. Don't touch it. We are doing innovation over here when it can't make anything bad go over here. I'm articulating with my arms very much in this sound podcast.
But that's one thing, right? It's all working well, right? So let's change something that's working, right? And that is a problem. Yeah. But also the whole modernizing thing, I always think about that. It's like not Lord of the Rings. I always say Lord of the Rings, right? The Lion King. Yeah. Right, where he's like, everything you see is our land, right? What about the dark place? Don't go there. Don't talk about the old ERP in the basement. That's not.
But it is. Yeah. It is innovation theater, and I think that's a huge part right now for me. Is this about like what the effing thing is we actually measuring? The KPIs people are getting for 2024 get us on the AI train. Like stop. Yeah. Why? What are you solving? What are you trying to do? Yeah. Like be more transformative. Like
be more transformative.
Yeah, as like the KPIs I have heard.
It's like my wife saying, "Can't you be just a little bit more like a player?" Yeah, I could if we hadn't been married for 18 years.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's actually the same thing.
But it's the thing that we try to measure for speed and not quality, and we have built a society where we measure that things happen quick, that we get a response quickly. Like going back to the accountants, I have a lot of people saying that the juniors right now, they only have one focus. That's speed. So if they get a question and a partner needs them to do some research, they will answer within like 2 minutes, and it's a screenshot for their competitor's homepage where the competitor has explained what to do with this. And like, I can't use this. But we are measuring speed. So taking that into account, like going up the chain and saying, okay, what are people doing? Okay, everybody else is doing chatbots. We need to get on that train. Some smart guys say, please start internally. Oh, we'll start internally. Perfect. Then we won't make a Air Canada case.
You get what you measure, right?
Exactly.
And the quality triangle is speed, cost, and quality. Yeah. So you can only get two of them.
Yeah, exactly. But more on that point, like we really have a society right now where we put speed on top of everything. It's not quality.
Speed is also about how quickly can we respond to whatever situation. Yeah. Not necessarily what situations do we want to respond to. Yeah. I think that last thing is, taking a stand, being someone, taking a position, while the first one is just saying, let's just, to some extent, it's the potentiality of things. And I always say that in modern societies, now it becomes maybe personal, very deep, philosophical, to some extent. But my point is always, we have in the modern society, we have a tendency to focus on potentialities. It's about being rich so you can do things, but not about what you want to do with your money.
No.
It's about being young, but not about what you want to do with your youth. About being healthy, but not about what you want to do with your health. No. About being free, but not about what you want to do with your freedom. And all these things, they only, when you use them fully, they disappear. Like with freedom, right? If you spend your freedom, I said that when I got married 18 years ago, very young, I said, I'm spending my freedom now. And that's why I am the most free. Yeah. Because I spend it all.
You let it go.
Yes. But if I never let it go, I'm trapped by my potential, right? Yeah. Potentiality, it could be something else. And speed is the same, right? Just hunting speed is saying, let's just hunt the ability to respond quickly. Yeah. Instead of hunting something that we believe is an edge or something we need to do.
But the funny thing is that, like, this is companies where most of all, like, their values, their motto, their whole idea is like, we are quality before everything else.
Yes.
But their working culture is speed
before everything. Yes. Yeah.
Speed. Yeah.
Interesting.
But that's I think it's come down to a societal shift over.
But that's also why I think Angela Wick said on the podcast. I don't know if you heard that one. I don't think you did. We talked about this before, which you've heard. But she said that a developer only spends 20% of his time developing.
Yeah.
And people forget that. They think a developer's something that can be 100% optimized on speed, right? But it can't, And if you say he gets 20% more efficient by using AI, then it's 20% of 20%.
Exactly.
That's 4%.
Yeah.
The rest of the time, what's he doing? He's aligning.
Yeah.
What is the purpose of what I'm building?
He's trying to understand what his
that's a qualitative aspect.
Project
Figure out what do we want to do.
Actually want to do.
What do we want to do, right? What is it all about? And that's the alignment thing. I said time autistic stuff before. Now I'm going to say this whole work autistic, saying that whatever I do, I'll be more productive. But if you get more productive, you might not align with your colleague, and then you're not productive. Then you're just producing something that goes, go off the tracks, or what we want to do, and doesn't make any sense. You still have to align.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned the part of like being 20% more productive about 20% of your work. I think it's very, very important to take into account that might be transforming for you. I have a single example of a company that does a lot of work for the Danish government or working with people, and they have to document everything. They use about like 20% of their work documenting. So nobody at that company wants to do this. They dread it, and they have had to implement a Friday where everybody meets and they do all the documentation on that day. They are now looking into optimizing that point because it feels like they use 80% on documentation. And by lowering that 10% or something like that, they get so much benefit from it because the whole work mentality about we use all our time on this. Then you can talk about transformation in other numbers than just how many minutes and hours.
Some of the hours move faster than others, right? Because you enjoy
exactly,
yourself, right?
and we forget this in the bigger picture, but it's
difficult to put into a spreadsheet.
Exactly, but you can see the.
How much did you work this week? I worked 40 hours.
Yeah,
and 10 of them were some things I enjoyed. I don't care.
Yeah.
My boss would be like, but maybe he would care about that, but
But this is a company for 25 people or something like that, and it's their pain. It's the whole culture about we freaking hate this. We want to work with people. We want to do more of this. So just removing 1 hour every week is a huge.
But I also think I'm not saying 4% is nothing.
No.
If someone 2 years ago would have given me 4%. On global GDP or something.
Exactly.
I'll be like, okay, fine, I'll take it. Sold, right? And I think that we just gotten so used to the idea of saying the 100% transformational turnover, right? Or 20% just even, right? And that we forget to say, okay, but this, if this is just lifting 5%, that's still quite significant for you.
It is, but we miss putting it into context. We miss actually understanding what are we moving. Are you getting 50% more effective doing your emails? What actually does this for you? Does it make
what do you spend the rest of the time
happy?
On? Does it make you happy?
Do you create twice as much emails for everybody else to read?
And a funny thing, do you then use that 50% time to do something else, or do you just spend more time, contemplate more on the other things you would do? So you're less stressed about it. You actually produce the same 10 cases outside, but now you just spend 2 minutes more on each case. Is that a good or bad thing?
Did you sell more herrings?
Yeah.
What are we actually moving? We are so focused on we need to find these cases for optimization or productivity boost. What are you going to use it for?
But if you ask anyone in a company, they'll know what they're measuring, right? In their sales, they'll know what's important, right? And I just think that some of the issues right now, and maybe you can, and this is just maybe something I think, maybe it's difficult to actually see the AI impact on these things?
It is, because like now you have improved mail writing or customer responses with 8%. Are they more happy? Are we measuring their customer happiness on
if you sell through your emails, there should be 8% more sales, right?
I guarantee it won't be.
No, exactly, but so I'm just saying, how does this, is it not just being some subset of KPIs saying, are we faster, but are we also...
But that comes back to the whole meaning.
Then you're back on your value prop for your product, right?
And the whole value chain and understanding processes and understanding what data you have to build on and everything. There's no shortcomings in this.
And if you do it, your competitors are probably also doing it.
Yeah.
So this way AI becomes something that will be a problem if you can't adopt it.
Yeah. Exactly.
And not your differentiating.
No.
And there we're back to saying that, yes, you will be doing things in 5 years.
Yeah. You will be.
Yeah, because your competitors will find some ways to do more than you do.
Exactly. I have signed like 19 NDAs in the last 4 years on AI cases, and without breaking any of them, 3 of them was about like meeting notes transcription that they wanted to build in house. And I had to stop these projects because it would make no sense on creating internal.
But I said that to a developer. I had just a virtual. I sometimes do virtual coffee chats with people while I'm in my commute in the morning. Some of the mornings I don't have anything, so I can talk to people also from LinkedIn who reach out and say, hey. And he wanted to build a startup. And I said, he was working in a big enterprise. And I said, he hadn't been there for a year or something. I said, I wouldn't do that right now. You're just a machine learning engineer. You're just an engineer.
Yeah.
You need to get more domain knowledge, I said. Because the point is, you just build something that'll be like this meeting notes. Let's make a meeting note thing. Yeah, everyone can do that. That's just solutionizing. That's just...
How are you going to sell it? How are you going to find customers? How are you going to...
Yeah. And everyone can do it. And you'll be disrupted in a heartbeat by someone else, because it's easier and it's getting easier and easier. Have you seen how easy it is to use these AI models in cloud, right? It's just anyone can build a meeting note app if they just spent a couple of days and they're just a mediocre developer. Then you have it in raw Python, right?
Take any mediocre developer and give him 5 days to build a rack system. It won't be perfect. It won't stand ground on anybody else, but it will be up and running.
So understanding what you need to do out there and building in something that actually caters to the problems people are having. Like I said, everyone comes and says these use cases look generic, or they don't talk. No, but we need to talk to you, and that's where it gets difficult. That's also where it takes time and it costs money. And people are always annoyed at that, but to some extent, your problems are yours, right? I always say it's like falling in love. I say hype is about falling in love. You think this will solve your world, but then half a year later, you realize, but I'm also unhappy about this and that. This doesn't. This is like with my old boyfriend or girlfriend. It's like, because you know what happens? It starts reflecting who you are, and the same thing with technology. It starts reflecting who you are, and you have to look at that and change that, right?
Exactly, but that's my whole take into this. That like. People are looking into it like spending and investing so little as possible to get as much transformation as possible.
Yes.
But you have to look at the other way around. Those who actually invest and understand and do the process minings and process mapping and everything else, understand this data, they have the potential to actually...
I think the sentence I've said most on LinkedIn, but never really resonates. But I think it's super important, and I keep coming back to it, is that to have impact, you have to understand that some things are impacted.
Yeah.
So you can't say spend nothing and get big impact.
Yeah.
If you impact things, you disturb things, you mess up people and processes. It's costly.
Move things to move things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's not that the wind is blowing; it's what the wind is blowing.
Yeah.
If it carries something that falls in your head, right? You have to put something into the wind.
Exactly. It's there's no magic button, and but there is potential. You just really have to seek it and actually try to transform something.
So this will cost me something to get going, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
And you might have to mess up your existing business trying to do that. It takes risk.
Innovator's dilemma, right?
Yeah.
So, and Christian, you're very close to these Danish enterprises, which we already talked about and mentioned, right? And Denmark is one of the most digital countries in the world.
Yeah.
How do you see that reflected in the way Danish enterprises are actually approaching AI? I think we're one of the countries that people say have adopted it most and least afraid of our data and all that.
Yeah, I see it as a two-sided sword. We are one of the most digital nations in the world. People kind of forget why we are that, but we are. And it comes down to I was getting to it. Good. It comes down to that we actually structure and systemize our data sets, our registers, like CVR and CPR and
public authorities are really good at it.
Yeah, we are so small of a nation that we could actually say, oh, we can't have two existing data.
Yeah, we have master data setups for the public sector
for everything. Yeah, and we agree on that, and we actually build systems that can take these data sets and work with them, and we agree that that things should be structured in a specific way. Just go south of the border,
and we build standards, right? We build standards also in our contract. We have standard frameworks for contracts. So my employment contract is like 2-page thing because there's everything else is in this framework that we can't go beyond anyway. And the same thing with all the ways we're working as enterprises as well.
Exactly, and this is actually why we are one of the top digitalized nations in the world. It's that we actually systemize and standardize our things. You cannot underestimate how huge of a thing this is actually.
But I went to a country and presented about AI, taught them, and this was in the spring. And out of 12 people, only 3 had opened ChatGPT as some kind of LLM before. Mm-hmm. This was this is spring 2024.
Yeah,
and in Denmark that's unthinkable. Everyone's tried it, and I think that's.
But when I'm just proving your point here. Like when we are accustomed to building systems, we will be more digitalized.
We're looking at it all the time.
We have our driver's license digital. We have our sundhedskort, health insurance card,
public health insurance card.
Health insurance card, digital. Systems are able to be built upon great data sets.
Digital identities, we have digital invoices.
Yes.
Which means that when the public authorities did that, everyone else just complied in on the same standard and easy peasy.
We follow standards and we follow systemizations on these things, and therefore we can be more digitalized. Understanding that we have a digital world. We are digital first. And therefore, it is native to us that we will just take in new tools and try them. And we will be the first that try them because we are digital first. But on that note, and back to your question about is this showing anyway? I don't think so, because we don't have we can't see. The iPhone moment happened with ChatGPT and everything, but nobody took that and said, "Oh, well, now I can come AI enabled with this." But it's very hard just taking it and applying this to your very specific company, your complex value chain, your everything, because then you get into the problem and say, "Okay, now I have this value chain. I'm selling herring. And I answer emails here. I will do this 5 times more effective. I'm still selling the same amount of herring. And that's the problem everybody has run into. So, we are more digitalized. It's easier to move right now, but the companies aren't moving that fast.
But that also means we're entrenched in some quite fast digital ways of working already.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine how this Gen AI would feel in Germany. You said Germany before, so I'm going to say Germany.
Yeah. from my seat, it's they know they are behind, so they are looking to like standardize, automize, AI-ize in a whole nother way. They know they need to.
Yeah, but if you couldn't digital transform ourselves last 10 years, right?
Yeah.
How on earth are we going to handle 10x innovation and AI?
Yeah, but that's the problem. But they are their motivation is another.
Yeah.
They are on a burning platform. We aren't right now. We aren't feeling that we are on a burning platform. But yeah, you can. But that's the whole competition in the world and geopolitics.
Yeah, but that's also something that amazes me. We're quite affluent in Denmark, and we're still competitive.
Yeah.
In a globalized world, increasingly globalized world, right? And it's all down to of course the way we're agile. We speak up. If you give me a task and I don't want to do it, I speak up. Actually, we're not very hierarchical that way. We speak up more than other people do, at least. And we also have this digital thing going, right? That just makes sense because we put up standards that optimize, and it's been driven by the public. And that actually brings me to another question: is that standardization? Is that regulation you're talking on?
No, but it's also and you definitely want to go there. If what I think about regulation,
because we're regulating the AI Act in EU right now is something people are talking about. It's something that just prohibits innovation.
People always mention the US innovates, China replicates, and EU regulates. And to some degree, it's true. But if you actually read the European AI Act, it is the bare minimum.
Yeah.
It is common logic. It is, we don't want social scores. It is, we don't want you to do this and that with facial recognition. It is, you should actually get somebody else to look into your code if you're developing ABCD.
But I think that my point here is that, the regulation thing is I get that, but why didn't the EU come and say we need some standards we need to have digital identity for all European citizens. We need to have digital invoicing standards. We need to have the things we have in Denmark that actually works. Why is there no standards being implemented there?
But yeah. Great.
That would actually lift digitalization instead of just something saying, no, you can't do this.
But that's I see your point. EU is not working very hard on that point, but the countries in between are collaborating on what have you done that has been working. Okay, can we copy that? But it is.
We are EU citizens, right?
Yeah.
It would be nice to have that digital.
Yeah, I completely agree. And for the benefits that we see in Denmark, there's a lot of things that we could actually do.
But that's actually where I think the EU sometimes is focused more on what they see as dangers to our way of living today, instead of seeing how can we make an opportunity and make this, how can we help our societies innovate more by standardizing some of the things we already know we can standardize, right? And put them to a higher level, right?
Yeah. See the GDPR, for example. It is actually a great thing we got that. The whole idea about it is perfect. It comes from...
It over-implemented some places, right?
Exactly. But that's the problem. It's the over-implementation of it. And it's the different implementation of it country to country in Europe. Like... we are not facilitating companies to be compliant. We are hitting them when they are not compliant.
Yeah.
And that's the...
I said that about, we have the data authorities in Denmark, right?
Yeah.
No one wants to call them and ask them a question.
Nope.
I'm unsure about this, and you're afraid if you call them, you get a fine.
Yep.
But just imagine if it's the same with tax authorities.
Yeah,
then you're like, I don't know how to register. Can't call them because they'll give me a fine.
Yeah.
Tax is like, this is a regulation that has to be a service and a regulation. And we need to change the GDPR into becoming a service as well.
Exactly. And we will love to help you be compliant.
Yes.
Great. I will call you and say, I'm curious about this and this. Oh, no problem. I'm here to clarify that for you. Yeah. You need ABCD. Perfect. Okay, thanks for your help. I will implement that at no time.
Yeah. And I'll only fine you for major transgressions, just like with tax. If you just fix this quickly, we'll be lenient, right?
Yeah,
it's the same thing, right? I forgot to register something for my tax. You can do it next year.
Yeah,
it's okay.
You wasn't in bad faith.
No.
You're not trying to
exactly
trick the system. Oh, you have run a red light. I will fine you, and I will. Yeah.
No one expects the Spanish Inquisition, right?
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
It's like a nervous system that's too aggressive to some extent, right?
But that's the point. I'm all for
digital paranoia,
less regulation and more the free movement of companies to actually do stuff, and let's boost innovation.
I just
all
need
that.
less digital paranoia, I think.
Exactly, but I need that the regulation that comes actually are being like service to you. Like we will help you be compliant in this. We will help you actually.
We will actually tell you how you should build your AI system.
Yeah, and if you need third-party people to come in and look at it, this is how they should look at it. It should be a service to.
That's also how people are feeling about the AI idea. You say it's very linear, it's not very big. That's because you have the GDPR on the backbone of it. So, then AI Act feels like almost shallow compared to GDPR craziness.
Yeah.
But there is this this thing, right? People are also now being afraid that so if I start building this AI, will the Spanish Inquisition come in 2 years and be like, ta-da! No, you didn't. We didn't help you, but here is your fine. Bam.
But the positive thing of
and we didn't hit SoMe hard enough with it. I'm like, how can you build an AI Act?
Yeah.
Knowing all the things you know about how SoMe is driving our political agendas and just making our kids addicted to serotonin, and not include them really
because
aggressively.
That's in 2 other acts being done simultaneously.
Good.
So, and that what is actually what we forget about AI Act. Like, I don't know, 30-40% of it is actually covered in other regulations in Europe, and this is just being technical specific because now we are focusing on AI. So we will write it again and say you must not manipulate an election.
This is a real life example of how we increase complexity as we innovate.
Exactly. But
and complexity is not bad. Sometimes things are just complex, right?
Things are complex, and
alignment
take the GDPR. It's super complex, and the implementation was just looked at it the wrong way around.
And I know you also have some opinions on because now we are in the societal discussion about are we prepared societies for it, right? But also education. I know you've had some opinions on that before as well.
There's 2 camps right now. There's the camp like say you got to ban it, and you got to ban phones, and you got to ban computers, and everything is gonna be undigitalized from the 0th grade to 10th grade. That's the one camp. I won't mention people in that camp, but in the other camp we're like, it has so much potential because we will have a AI teacher 24/7. 365 days a year, and I'm like, but maybe we shouldn't outsource all of our educations to AI. My biggest fear in this, because I think we should land somewhere in the middle. My biggest fear is this, that we don't teach people to actually learn if we just give them a calculator from day one. I have I'm so close of trademarking this small stunt, but I have been implementing this in some gymnasiums, some high schools in Denmark, where I have asked them to in white text with white background put in banana and Argentina into the assignment, and what they get out is that out of 24 kids turning in an assignment on Napoleon Wars, 8 of them was about banana and Argentina. And you're a history guy. You know that banana and Argentina didn't have much to do with the Napoleon Wars. But now they're caught right-handed we can have an actual discussion about what we are actually thinking about.
Yeah.
So when I give you an assignment, the teacher actually have to sit down and read it.
My point is, I agree with that.
Thinking about the whole, like, where should we actually use AI?
I don't care about you using AI, but I care about if you don't do an effort.
Exactly. If you
make an effort,
if you enable yourself to be a better writer, or change your language, or be inspired by what the AI can suggest you.
But the fear. I can sit here and agree with you all day long to some extent, but we also went to school in the 90s, right? And we are already boomers. I'm 41. You're like 38.
Yeah.
But you sound like a boomer. Oh, but back in the old days, we had the thing.
No. But I'm actually telling people to use it. I'm really agreeing that we have to do it in the classroom. We need them to actually understand what it is.
But I actually think the opposite a little bit sometimes. I think because I read and it made me think, right? When you write, you think in a different way.
Yeah.
Sometimes writing is actually thinking. You don't think just by thinking a sentence. But sometimes when you start writing, you see, like one of my old bosses said that if you can draw it, you can do it.
Yeah.
And if you can write it, you can also do it. But if you can't put it into writing, it doesn't. But sometimes you just ask AI to do it, and then it gives you something that's not necessarily. My fear is, I've learned to be creative by writing and thinking without AI, right? And I find that, and I'm good at prompting. I'm good at using AI. I find sometimes that it disturbs my thoughts, like giving me some things I don't really agree with.
But aren't you then using it at the wrong times?
Yeah, but that's the problem. Problem is that people will be using it at the wrong times.
Yeah, but that's the whole understanding.
Also, even if they understand that it's not supposed to write about bananas in Argentina.
Yeah. But we need, as a society, to actually figure out when and where to use it, and our gut feeling must come into play here.
But what do you want to measure from these students then?
Yeah, but
being able to prompt well.
That's the thing. But we need to change the measurement on this, because if we are thinking it into the classroom, we need to teach something else in the classroom.
I think having a verbal exam and having them criticize their own assignments, for instance, would be maybe interesting, right? But then they're criticizing what the AI produced, or criticizing what they, something.
But that's the critical thinking. Yeah. That's the actually thinking about the assignment and thinking about what has been written.
Yeah.
I think we should teach kids to write without AI, but I think we need to think it into our education, so we understand that what I produce, that somebody has to read that. And there's no simple answers to this. It's not
teaching them to be critical, right? And I think to some extent there's also this. Have you been to Facebook lately? Yeah, and it's a shit show.
It is. It has been for years.
Yeah, but I think it's gotten worse. Yeah. Because now I see fake images. Like every third post is fake.
I think every second post I think is fake.
But it's actually the amount of I saw some the other day. Oh, the Mayans looked at the stars through binoculars, and then someone made something that looked like it was in a monter or in a museum, and it looked really nice and everything. Yeah. I was like, this is fake. Yeah. And the old couples were like, oh, they've been together for 80 years anniversary, happy anniversary. And it was like, people were like, yeah, happy anniversary. Oh, it's so good to hear. I get they're together for 80 years because they have 3 hands and weird fingers. Yeah. So AI gen, right? But that's everywhere, right? So my point is, I've started to notice in myself this critical thing becoming also an automated critical. I look for, when I see posts on LinkedIn, before I read it, I check, are there any signs that this is AI generated? And I have some specific signs, that, the hyphen is too long, or it says delve, or it has the same kind of bullets where it has first a headline and then text. Some things that just, this reeks of AI gen. Yeah. And every time I see an image, I look at it saying, does it stand out too clear? I saw an image of a building that was just taken with a multifocus camera, where it has, blurry in the sides, and then the building was. And I said, this looks AI generated. But it wasn't. But it looked like. So it's fucking with my mind, right?
But we are creating a shit ton of AI generation right now, and it is fucking with our world.
Yeah, but my critical thinking is critical on something that's not supposed to be critical about. I want to be critical about the subject, right?
But for the listeners also, please search for baby peacock.
Yeah, you told me that one. I'm using it.
Yeah, because that's the evidence. Like
first 6 pictures are false.
Yeah, and it was within the first 20 pictures, it was 1 or 2 in January.
Yeah,
and now we are just moving to as close to the first 20, and it's mind-boggling. But there you have the evidence that what way are we actually moving?
Yeah, but what I want to get into that is that saying that I want people to have to think critically, right?
Yeah.
About subjects and deep thought, system 2 critical thinking.
Yeah.
But I feel like we're just asking them to do, quick, is this AI generated crap, instead of, and we're actually just adding some more, another thing to, dismiss quickly on, I don't know. There's something that feels.
But we are still focusing on speed.
Yeah.
Back to the point, right? Like what are we measuring the students for? Well, what are we looking at? Like they have a day where they want to be with their friends all the time, and what do they even want to learn something in like high school or gymnasium or something like that? And we give them an assignment that they maybe or maybe not want to do, and it has to be on this time, and they don't go do it, and they have a magic button to create a whole fix their problem.
Yeah, and they're used to also on social media. They, if I just write 300 words, I can get approval.
Yeah.
So why should I ever write something that's
exactly and it's just an evolution on top of a booming business from 2010 to 2020, where a lot of kids bought papers, bought other people to write their papers.
Yeah,
it's not different. It's just digitalized and optimized in a way where we need to have a discussion of that point. Like, it's not the technology that is fucking over our education system. It's the way that we are actually doing this. Like, what are we teaching them? Like, you have to do a paper on this subject at Thursday. What will that teach me?
Yeah,
maybe something about Napoleon.
If you don't misunderstand the banana thing.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah,
so
yeah.
But that brings me also to Christian, what bores you in this hype market? What should we use AI for? And what shouldn't we use AI for?
I think the whole thing about the biggest problem about people don't understand what it is. Like, we need to just first of all be specific of what are we talking about. Like, I want to solve this problem. Cool. And you want to use AI. Okay, what AI? What are we actually trying to do here? That's the first point. The second point is that we need to differentiate by the AI enablement stuff. Like, what can we give out of tools to employees and they can feel empowered themselves or enable or optimize their own workflow? Cool. Put that in a bucket and say, okay, that's one point of it, on the whole hype market right now. The other part, and we have to separate this, the other part is actually organizational implementation. What are we trying to solve this over here? And what really bores me right now is that there is no gap between these. We are still talking about AI as one big subject. It's nobody will get into a room and say, what should we do about electricity? And what are you talking about? Is it nuclear, or is it fission, or is it batteries for Walkmans? What are you talking about? And this really, really kills it for me. We can't have a discussion if we don't agree on what we're talking about.
But also, but you post on LinkedIn, I post on LinkedIn, and you have to post short things as well, and you have to post AI as AI. Put AI there, right? So what are we talking about? But,
yeah, exactly.
But AI is what you can't do with computers, right? And what you can do is called software, right? That's the whole thing. So now people are adding creating names for AI that will be attached to the products, the core products they have. So it becomes something, this ERP with this AI tool.
With AI.
And why is not just the ERP that now works in a different way, right?
Yeah, why isn't just enabled with AI? Like
a feature, hidden somewhere in documentation or product features description.
Like MS Paint and Notepad has AI now.
MS Paint Copilot.
Yeah. They haven't named it yet, but probably will be. And I actually really love MS Paint and Notepad because they're the fastest small tools that you can just do one thing with and don't mess with it. Don't have AI.
But they could make it easier to change text in Paint after you've written it, right?
No.
Don't optimize it. It's perfect as is.
It has been perfect for 20 years. You use it to open it and save it as another format. That's it. Don't go.
You look wonderful tonight.
Exactly. Download something else if you need more. There's so many great tools. You don't have to compete on that market.
Good. Okay. Good.
But I totally agree. It's called software.
Yeah.
Why are we messing up the whole picture? Saying
now we have this AI thing here.
Yeah. But that's the hype train for you.
But it becomes really difficult to apply, right? That's the problem. It's difficult to apply when it's everything and nothing.
Yeah.
Instead of saying that this is, upgrading your EP, you'll get these features.
Yeah.
That's easier to understand, actually, than saying you need this AI thingy that will be AI thingy wingy here, right?
Then it's AI for AI's sake.
Superficial, right? It becomes in Platonic, right? It becomes an idea.
Yeah.
More than a concept.
Sell me the feature.
I remember reading Niels Lyhne by E.P. Jacobsen.
Yeah.
Okay, now where and now I must see if I can actually explain this. That's my bravery. I just go there and then I hope I can explain it.
You jumped.
But his mother. She always dreamt of. She read a lot of Rousseau, and this was, in the 18th century or something, 19th century Denmark. She read a lot of Rousseau, and she always loved his the blue vinica, I think, vinica, a flower.
Yeah.
And she wanted to go see it in France, the real one. That was what she dreamt of, or she thought about her whole life. So Niels gets affluent. He earns some money, and he takes his mother there in the end of her life, and she is disappointed because France was better in the way she imagined it.
In writing.
And in the stories in her mind, she's been living on this farm forever, right? And then she goes to France and she's like, it's not the same. She was disappointed. And then she died there among the blue vinica, sky blue as never a sky is blue, he writes, right?
Yeah.
And to some extent, this becomes AI as never an AI is blue, right? So we imagine some AI that will be this magic transformative thing, and no AI will ever live up to that if we put it on that pedestal. If we have that imagination, right? If we dream of Skynet with both a little bit of fear and a little bit of expectation, and then we're quite disappointed with this small chatbot that can look at a single contract and even mess some things up sometimes, right?
Yeah, but I totally agree. But I think there is so much potential. I
do too.
I'm really, really positive about AI.
But we need to talk about the challenge. We need to talk about the things there. We need to talk about France or this is baguettes, right? It's not talk about.
We need to talk about transformation.
But not make it some dreamy world of something that could be better, but make something that's real.
Yeah, exactly. But we need that now instead of everybody going and adding AI to the back of their software product and everybody going and say, oh, if I just bought like 100 licenses for my 400 large company, then we will be on the AI train.
Yeah.
Cool. Like we need actual transformation and we need actual value creating.
We haven't actually talked about the risk side too much about this, right? Yeah. But I actually think that this is something that I'm also seeing. I touched upon a little bit with the social media and all the fake stuff and everything. But and this is a difficult one. Are we going to have more opportunities or more risks from using AI as a society? You've gotten some crazy phishing stuff as well. I guess everyone has, where it looks really real right now, right?
I will just throw it out there. I have clicked on 5 things that I shouldn't. I have spotted instantly afterwards, but I have actually clicked on stuff that looked completely real. That I that timing wise, that everything, like you have to register this tax thing, and everything just looked real. And I thought, like, why shouldn't it be next week? But yeah, I'll click it, and it was fake, and it was scam, and I didn't do anything else, and no harm. But still, I'm getting tricked. I've been a little into IT security also. I know this. It's so embarrassing to say, but it looks real, and
that's why I said you're becoming a boomer very, very quickly.
Yeah, exactly. We are. This whole hype train is not about like technology moving. It's just old guys moving really fast into boomer stage.
Yeah. Not even old guys, young people. You're 30 now.
Yeah.
Go to retirement.
Yeah. Go be a boomer.
Go directly to retirement.
Move past start.
Yeah, exactly. But the point here is, right, so we're going to get a lot of these things, but also the whole, as I said before, now I'm spending time evaluating, is this AI generated or not, right? Is that a risk? Is that just a distraction?
But the risks for me is not there. It's not that now we can do more phishing and we can do more stuff like that. I think there will be tools that balance that out, so we don't see a explosion in more mails getting through. It will catch up, and people are working very, very hard also to use AI to counter AI and all these things. The biggest risk and worry for me is that we lose connection between people. That we actually automize our communication between people. Like I might have given you that example also, but a friend of mine that's a female friend of mine that was on Tinder, and had been talking to a guy for 2 weeks, and suddenly he asked, how was your weekend? And she's like, I'm feeling a bit ill, and straight away she gets 4 points to get over a cold. And she asked, what is this? And then, did you use ChatGPT for our conversation? And he comes clean and say, yeah, but it's also very, very hard to manage 38 conversations at the same time.
I remember your comment saying that I love my wife, but 95% of it is just I don't want to go on this dating market.
No. I love my wife, and 95% of it is because I love my wife.
I thought it was the other way.
No. 5% of it is complete fear and panic, and the more we move, it actually grows a little. So it might be 10% of it is complete panic about what the dating market look like. We've been married for 10 years, so I'm very happily married, but effing shit, it's complete panic. I don't want to interact with and call me boomer again, but I that's my fear.
Yeah, but we called each other in our generation still, right? But my kids, 16 to 20 or something, they don't call, they text.
Yeah.
And text is just, that can be automated now.
Calls can too.
Calls can too, right? But
we
that would be taking it to a level. I still think.
Definitely.
If you call me with,
This is an automated call from Christian. Lasse, I would just like you to know that I will be running 15 minutes late. I hope.
I love the new voice speech feature in ChatGPT. I always make it sound like speaking a German English accent and whisper, because it sounds like then it's up to something. I will go this way, and you shall not do it. Anyway.
I will be 15 minutes late. Lidt fransk, some French accent. Now
No, but that is a risk here that we're losing there. But that's the whole thing, right? That's the whole modernity thing, estrangement. And now it's just estrangement from each other as well, because the interaction we can have with each other, language is also automated. It's not just the production of meat that I buy in the refrigerator at my supermarket. It's actually the way I interact with my kids, my wife, my friends, everything.
Your work?
Everything can be automated now. The unstructured approaches that I do can be automated by an unstructured robot.
Yeah. And I actually see this in development houses, like the software development houses, where like people can work from home, and they used to like call their colleagues and really talk about like IT problems, like development problems. Now they ask a chatbot for the first, second, and third part, and they're going from having like 10, 15 conversations a week about specific development problems, and now they're down to 1 or 2.
So what you need to do actually to counter this is actually ensure you build a culture around your employees that cater to the fact that they'll be using chatbots for things.
Yeah.
Because you need to make sure they have touch points and do something else with each other.
Yep.
Problem is if they just become, you'll have no loyalty, and you still need loyalty. You still need people to know what you've built before or done before.
Yep.
But if you don't have any loyalty because people are just sitting like that, and they, I can work with this chatbot somewhere else where I get a little bit more paid.
Yep.
Then you don't.
Where's the connection?
Where's the connection to the company, to the values, to the strategy,
to
your
everything? Colleagues?
To your colleagues. Your colleagues is what makes up organizations. They are social constructs created by all of us. And if there's no one to enforce that, your company actually doesn't exist.
Exactly.
That's the bottom. That's actually a crazy conclusion here.
Exactly. And that's my biggest fear. That is really my biggest fear. And I have seen actually companies try to solve this very, very well. And I've also seen like companies trying, then they just have to be in the office. And I don't think that's the solution for it.
No, definitely not.
The well solution I have seen is actually implementing, say, okay, you all use GitHub Copilot and stuff like that. We will log everything you do with this, but we won't log who is asking it what. We'll only log what has been asked, and then every second week we'll actually gather everybody for an hour and talk about the learnings that it's Azure and
why did you have this problem?
Azure and Vue.js.
Do we need to architect something differently?
We changed. There's an update to the framework. Now you have to remember that it works in this way or something like
That's
that.
a really great idea.
It's a really good idea, and everybody is getting knowledge because it is your colleagues that is asking the same questions to this chatbot as everybody else, and it really brings people together about like, okay, it might be a question I'm going to ask next week, right?
But maybe we also need to just see in a couple of years, this will just mean that we move up the food chain and have more architects who are asking more questions instead of having so many developers. So we just move it up a bit, like you do in everything else, right?
But that's we are going
We're still in the infancy. When Excel came out, a lot of bank employees were actually fired, but then they rehired them over the next 10, 15 years in different roles. But we still need to innovate. What do we want to do? What is the new complexities, new structures we want to build with this?
Yeah.
And that we haven't gone there yet. We don't know yet.
We
have projections. Most of these projections are from companies who earn from making these predictions.
Yeah.
Saying 15 trillion something, GDP 7%. And always from companies who earn money from getting bigger investments. Yeah.
And 30% of your workforce will be reskilled within 3 years.
But we still really, really need to figure out what do we want to do with this in the future. Exactly. So don't get rid of all your skilled employees right now, right? Keep domain knowledge and then let them innovate instead.
Yeah. But that's back to the question about what you want to do with this, like customer support. Favorite case in this, because a lot of it can be automated right now. But do you want to? Like, my hope for this is actually that you will create space and time that you can have people calling out and create more connection with people and solve their problems instead of just having it on a call time and say, I have 1 minute and 28 seconds to solve your problem.
Being more personal, not with technology, but actually people being personal, and then technology taking over the robot in the human.
Exactly. Instead of you looking up something, you can have the robot, but actually creating a connection with your customer.
Yes.
That's the whole value there. And you won't get that if you just fire 50% of your customer support people.
No.
But yet that's going from like creating more to creating better.
Not measuring speed, but measuring quality, right?
Exactly. Back to the same point again.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So, Christian, this has been a really, really terrific conversation. I've really enjoyed it, and I think we've gone far and wide, and also deep and everything, and I've been extremely happy with it. And I have one final question for you. You already alluded to it, so you know it's coming.
I know it's coming.
Yeah. Are you ready for it?
I'm ready.
What did you eat for dinner? No, that's a joke. Anyway, that's not the question. Christian,
go on with it.
What is the only constant?
Yeah. I think that you completely, I'm totally agree that the only constant is change. But change can't be a constant. So what's the constant in change? I think for like humans in general, it is actually trust. We are creating change throughout time, and we are innovating, and we are doing all these things, but everything comes down to trust. When we trust things, we are actually moving. And put it into any technological leap. It is always about trust. When we actually trust something, we embed it, we implement it, we use it, we move to the next step. The whole reason why we don't have self-driving cars everywhere is trust. The whole reason we ain't automating everything is trust. As soon as we trust technology leaps, we will implement it, and it will take over, and that will create the change that we are seeing. So to answer your question with another question is like, when do we have trust? And being like semi AI podcast here, when do we actually trust AI to solve things? That will be the question for the future. But I think the only constant is change, and the only constant in change is trust. Does that make sense at all?
That is a really, really great answer.
Yeah,
I really, really love it. Also, that trust is also what we need to ensure we keep as humans, so we can still trust each other and our organizations.
Yeah, I take anything. Take self-driving cars. I think we would have been there 10 years ago if we had complete blind trust in the technology.
So if we don't have any positive trust, if we don't have any trust, we can't have any positive change.
Yeah, exactly.
Brilliant answer to The Only Constant, Christian. And thank you so much for being on The Only Constant today. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
You've listened to The Only Constant, a podcast sponsored by Basico.